Rain was falling on Lagos that night. A little girl sat outside a locked iron gate. Her clothes were wet. Her feet were bare. She was hugging her knees, shaking, waiting for a man who did not even know she existed. Inside that gate stood the biggest mansion on the street. A mansion that belonged to one of the richest men in Nigeria. He almost drove past her. He almost looked away. But something made him stop the car. He stepped out into the rain, looked down at the shivering child, and asked her one question. "Little girl, where is your mother?" She lifted her head. Her lips were trembling from the cold. And then she said the words that would destroy his entire world. "Daddy. I found you." He had no children. He had no wife. He did not even know this child's name. So why did she call him Dad? What he was about to discover would tear apart his family, expose a secret his own mother had buried for 7 years, and force him to choose between the woman he never stopped loving, and the family that destroyed her. This is her story. Watch until the end, because nothing you are about to hear is what it looks like. 7 years ago, in a small compound behind a fabric market in Enugu, a girl named Ngozi Ease grew up with nothing but her mother's prayers and her own 2 hands. She was not born into money. She was not born into comfort. But she was born with a heart so warm that everyone who met her wanted to stay close to it. She worked as a cleaner in one of the biggest hotels in the city, the Adigwe Grand, owned by one of the wealthiest families in the country. Every morning she mopped marble floors she could never afford to stand on for long. Every night she went home to a one-room apartment with a leaking roof, and she thanked God anyway. Nobody in that hotel noticed her. Nobody except one man. Kingsley Adigwe was the son of the family that owned the hotel. He was young then, only 26, still learning the business from his mother, the powerful and feared Lady Beatrice Adigwe. Kingsley was different from his family. He did not care about designer suits or expensive cars. He cared about people. And the first time he saw Ngozi quietly humming a song while she cleaned the lobby floor, something in his chest moved. He started finding small reasons to talk to her. A cup of tea here. A kind word there. She was shy at first. She thought a rich man's son was only playing with her heart the way rich men often play with poor women. But Kingsley was patient. He waited. He proved himself, day after day, until Ngozi finally believed that his love was real. For almost a year, they loved each other in secret. They knew that if Lady Beatrice ever found out, it would be the end of everything. And one evening, it was. Lady Beatrice walked into her son's private office and found Ngozi in his arms. She did not scream. She did not cry. She simply looked at Ngozi the way a queen looks at dirt on her shoe. "You," she said, "are nothing. My son will marry a woman of status, not a cleaner from the market." Ngozi tried to speak, but Lady Beatrice raised a hand to stop her. "If you truly love my son," she said, "you will disappear. Or I will make sure you regret ever looking at him." That night, security guards escorted Ngozi out of the hotel. She was fired without pay. Lady Beatrice made calls to every hotel in the city, warning them never to hire her again. Kingsley searched for her for weeks, but his mother had hidden every trace. What Kingsley never knew was this. Ngozi was already carrying his child. She was too afraid, too broken, too proud to come back and beg. She left the city with nothing but a small bag and a secret growing inside her. She told herself Kingsley would never find out, because if Lady Beatrice ever discovered a grandchild born from a cleaner, she would destroy the child's life before it even began. So Ngozi disappeared into silence, and raised her daughter alone. She named her Amara. It means grace. For 7 years, Ngozi worked as a hospital cleaner in a small town outside the city, hiding her past, protecting her daughter from a truth too dangerous to speak. Amara grew up believing her father was simply gone, the way many fathers in her world seemed to disappear. But children are not easy to lie to forever. One day, Ngozi collapsed at work. Her body, weakened from years of exhaustion and an illness she had ignored for too long, finally gave up on pretending to be strong. She was rushed to the hospital where she worked, and the doctors gave her the news no mother ever wants to hear. Her heart was failing. She needed urgent surgery. Surgery that cost more money than she could earn in 10 years. Lying in that hospital bed, weak and afraid, Ngozi finally whispered the truth to her daughter. Amara, listen to me carefully. Your father's name is Kingsley Adigwe. He owns the Adigwe Grand Hotel in Lagos. If something happens to me, you go and find him. Tell him who you are. He will protect you. Amara was only 7 years old, but she carried that name in her heart like a secret treasure. 3 days later, while her mother slept from exhaustion in the hospital, Amara did something no 7-year-old should ever have to do. She took the little money her mother kept under the mattress, she boarded a bus alone, and she traveled for hours toward the address a kind stranger helped her find. The address of the Adigwe family mansion in Lagos. By the time she arrived, it was already night. Rain began to fall. The gate was locked, tall, and cold. She had no phone. No adult. No plan. She simply sat down outside that gate and waited, because her mother told her Kingsley would protect her, and children believe their mothers completely. That is where we return to the beginning of this story. Kingsley Adigwe, now 33 years old and the head of the Adigwe business empire, was returning home from a late meeting. His car lights fell on a small shivering figure by the gate. He almost drove past. But something, perhaps the same instinct that once made him notice a quiet cleaner humming in a hotel lobby, made him stop. He stepped into the rain. Little girl, where is your mother? And she lifted her tired eyes and said the words that shook him to his bones. Daddy. I found you. For a moment, Kingsley could not breathe. He knelt down in the rain in his expensive suit, looked into her face, and saw something painfully familiar. Her eyes. Ngozi's eyes. What is your name? He asked, his voice shaking. Amara, she whispered. My mummy is very sick. She said if anything happens to her, I should come and find you. Kingsley lifted her into his arms without another word and carried her inside. The mansion staff panicked when they saw him walk in soaked with rain, carrying a strange child. Word reached Lady Beatrice within minutes. She came down the grand staircase in her silk robe, her face already twisted in suspicion. Kingsley, what is the meaning of this? Who is this child? Kingsley looked at his mother, and for the first time in his life, something cold entered his voice. I don't know yet, Mother. But I intend to find out. And when I do, God help anyone who kept this from me. He ordered his private doctor to examine Amara that same night. He gave her warm food, dry clothes, and a soft bed. He sat beside her until she fell asleep, watching her face, searching for answers in her small sleeping features. The next morning, he did something his mother never expected. He asked his driver to trace the bus route Amara had taken, and by afternoon, he found the small town hospital where a weak woman lay recovering from collapse, a woman the nurses only knew as Ngozi. When Kingsley walked into that hospital room and saw her lying there, thinner, tired, but still unmistakably the woman he had never stopped thinking about for 7 years, his knees nearly gave out. Ngozi, he whispered. She opened her eyes, and when she saw him standing there, tears immediately filled them. Kingsley, you found her. She found me, he said softly, pulling a chair close to her bed. Why didn't you tell me, Ngozi? Why did you disappear with my child and never say a word? Ngozi's voice broke as she spoke. Your mother made it very clear what would happen to me and to my baby if I stayed. I was protecting her the only way I knew how. Kingsley closed his eyes, guilt and anger fighting inside his chest. You suffered alone for 7 years, he said. You should never have carried this alone. I only wanted peace, Ngozi whispered. I never wanted your money. I never wanted your name. I only wanted my daughter to be safe. Kingsley took her hand gently. You will never be alone again. Not you, and not Amara. I promise you that. He arranged for Ngozi to be transferred immediately to the best cardiac hospital in Lagos, under his personal care and his personal cost. He moved both Ngozi and Amara into a private wing of his mansion property, away from his mother's immediate reach, though not far enough to avoid her fury entirely. When Lady Beatrice learned the truth, that the child sleeping in her guest room was her own granddaughter, born from the cleaner she had once thrown out like garbage, her pride refused to bend. "This is impossible," she snapped at her son. "You will destroy this family's reputation over a girl from the gutter?" "Careful, mother," Kingsley said, his voice low and dangerous. "That girl from the gutter is the mother of your only grandchild." But Lady Beatrice was not a woman who surrendered easily. She had already chosen a bride for her son years ago, a woman named Kayamika Nwosu, daughter of a powerful business partner. An engagement had quietly been arranged behind Kingsley's back, waiting for the right moment to be announced. Now, with Ngozi's return, Lady Beatrice saw her plans crumbling, and she was not willing to let that happen without a fight. She summoned Kayamika to the mansion the very next week. "That cleaner and her bastard child will not stand in the way of this family's future," Lady Beatrice told her. "We will remind everyone, including my son, exactly where people like her belong." Kayamika smiled coldly. "Leave it to me, Auntie Beatrice. I know exactly how to remind a poor woman of her place." The following days became a quiet war inside the Adigwe mansion. Every time Ngozi grew stronger, every time she and Kingsley shared a peaceful moment, Lady Beatrice or Kayamika found a new way to wound her. At a family dinner, Kayamika looked across the table at Ngozi and said sweetly, "It's strange, isn't it? A hotel cleaner sitting at the same table as the family she once mopped floors for." Ngozi lowered her eyes, her hands trembling under the table, but she did not respond. Amara, sitting beside her, gripped her mother's hand tightly. Later that night, Lady Beatrice cornered Ngozi in the hallway. "You married poverty once, and poverty followed you everywhere," she hissed. "Do not think a sick heart and a lucky child will make you family. Know your place." Ngozi's voice trembled, but she stood taller than she ever had before. "I am not asking for your approval, madam. I am only here because my daughter needed her father. Nothing more." "We will see how long that lasts," Lady Beatrice replied coldly. Kingsley tried his best to shield them both, but his mother's cruelty was relentless, and Kayamika's manipulation grew sharper with every passing week. She spread rumors among the staff that Ngozi was only after Kingsley's money. She hinted to business partners that the child's parentage was uncertain, planting seeds of doubt even in moments when Kingsley was not present to defend them. Despite the storm around her, something beautiful was growing quietly in the middle of it. Kingsley spent every evening he could sitting with Amara, listening to her stories, letting her fall asleep against his shoulder while he read to her. He spent long nights beside Ngozi's hospital bed, holding her hand as her heart slowly grew stronger. One quiet evening, sitting together on the balcony overlooking the city lights, Kingsley finally spoke the words he had carried for 7 years. "I never stopped loving you, Ngozi. Not for one single day." Ngozi looked at him, her eyes glistening. "You broke my heart when you let them take me away." "I didn't let them," Kingsley said, his voice cracking. "I searched for you until I had no strength left to search anymore. I thought I lost you forever." "You didn't lose me," Ngozi whispered. "I hid myself. To protect our daughter from the same cruelty that pushed me out." Kingsley reached for her hand. "I am not that helpless young man anymore, Ngozi. I run this family now. And I promise you, no one will ever make you feel small again." For a moment, peace settled over them, warm and fragile, like the calm before a storm. That storm arrived 3 weeks later, at the grand gala the Adigwe family hosted every year, an event attended by the wealthiest families, business partners, and society elite of Lagos. Lady Beatrice saw her opportunity. She planned to use the gala to publicly announce Kingsley's engagement to Kayamika, forcing his hand in front of hundreds of witnesses before he could refuse. Ngozi, still regaining her strength, chose to attend that night, standing quietly beside Kingsley, wearing a simple elegant dress instead of the diamonds and silk surrounding her. Amara stood proudly between them, holding her father's hand for the entire world to see. Halfway through the evening, Lady Beatrice took the microphone. Tonight, she announced with a practiced smile, I am delighted to confirm the engagement of my son, Kingsley Adigwe, to Miss Kayamaka Nwosu. Gasps and applause rippled through the hall. Kingsley's face went pale with fury. Mother, stop this, he said sharply, stepping forward. I never agreed to this. The papers are already prepared, Kingsley, Lady Beatrice said calmly. For the good of this family, you will honor them. Kayamaka smiled and reached for Kingsley's arm, but he stepped back immediately, pulling away from her in front of everyone. I will not marry a woman chosen for me through lies, he said firmly. Not while the woman I love and the daughter I only just found stand in this very room. The crowd erupted into whispers. Lady Beatrice's face turned to stone. You would humiliate this family for a cleaner? She snapped. No, Mother, Kingsley said, his voice rising with a strength no one had ever heard from him before. You humiliated this family the day you threw a pregnant woman out into the street and hid your own grandchild from me for 7 years. The entire hall fell into stunned silence. You called her a cleaner, Kingsley continued, turning to face the crowd. You called her nothing. But that cleaner gave birth to my daughter alone, worked herself sick to protect her, and never once asked this family for a single coin. Meanwhile, you sat in comfort, plotting engagements behind my back. He turned to Kayamaka next, whose confident smile had completely disappeared. And you, he said quietly, have spent weeks spreading lies about a sick woman and an innocent child, all to secure a marriage you knew was built on deception. You will not be welcomed in this family. Not now. Not ever. A senior business partner in the crowd, a man Lady Beatrice deeply respected, stepped forward, visibly shaken. Beatrice, is this true? You hid a grandchild from your own son for 7 years? Lady Beatrice, for the first time in her life, had no words. Amara, standing beside her father, looked up at the woman who had spoken so many cruel words to her mother. In a small, clear voice, she said the sentence that would echo through that hall for weeks to come. You called him a gatekeeper's assistant when he first loved my mummy. Now everyone in this room stands inside a party thrown by his family. And still, all you see is where we came from, not who we are. Some guests wiped their eyes. Others turned away from Lady Beatrice entirely, disgusted by what they had just learned. The powerful woman who once ruled every room she entered now stood exposed, humiliated by her own cruelty, in front of the very society she had spent her life trying to impress. She reached for her son's arm. Kingsley, please, let us discuss this privately. He pulled away gently but firmly. There is nothing left to discuss tonight, Mother. You made your choice 7 years ago. Tonight, I am making mine. He walked away from her, toward Ngozi and Amara, and knelt down in front of them in front of the entire hall. I am done hiding love because someone else is ashamed of it, he said softly, looking only at Ngozi. Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that to you? Ngozi, tears falling freely now, could only nod, unable to speak through the emotion rising in her throat. The applause that followed was not for wealth, or status, or the perfect engagement Lady Beatrice had planned. It was for a family finally choosing truth over pride. But even after such a powerful moment, wounds this deep do not heal in a single night. In the weeks that followed, Ngozi struggled quietly with the years of pain she carried. Trust, once broken so completely, does not return simply because an apology is spoken. I want to believe this is real, she confided to Kingsley one evening. But I spent 7 years teaching myself not to hope. It is hard to unlearn that. Then I will spend as many years as it takes proving to you that hope is safe again, Kingsley answered gently. I am not asking you to forget the pain. I am only asking you to let me help you heal from it. Lady Beatrice, humbled publicly and privately shaken by the disgust of her own social circle, slowly began to change. It was not easy, and it was not immediate. But one afternoon, she sat quietly beside Amara in the garden, watching the little girl draw pictures in the dirt. I was cruel to your mother, Lady Beatrice said softly, her voice unfamiliar even to herself. I let my pride blind me to the kind of family I almost lost. Amara looked up at her with the honest simplicity only children possess. My mummy says everyone deserves a second chance if they really mean they're sorry. Lady Beatrice's eyes filled with tears she did not expect. Do you think your mother would give me one? I think, Amara said thoughtfully, you should ask her yourself. That evening, for the first time in 7 years, Lady Beatrice walked to Ngozi and knelt in front of her, an act no one in that family had ever seen her perform for anyone. I was wrong, she said quietly. I let money decide who deserved love in this family, and I nearly destroyed my own son's happiness because of it. I am asking for your forgiveness, not because I deserve it, but because my granddaughter deserves a family that is finally whole. Ngozi looked at the woman who once threw her out into the rain, who once called her nothing, who once tried to erase her from her daughter's life completely. Forgiveness did not come instantly, but something in Ngozi's heart, tired of carrying anger for so long, chose to soften. I forgive you, she said finally. Not for your sake alone, but for Amara's. She deserves grandparents who love her without conditions. Months later, Kingsley and Ngozi were married in a small, quiet ceremony, nothing like the extravagant gala where their story had exploded into the open. It was simple, warm, and filled only with people who truly loved them. Amara stood between her parents as they exchanged their vows, wearing a small white dress and the brightest smile Lagos had seen in years. As the sun set over the Adigwe estate that evening, Ngozi looked around at the family she once believed she would never have, the daughter who bravely walked through rain to find her father, the man who never stopped searching for her, and even the mother-in-law who had finally learned humility. She whispered softly to herself, words that carried every year of pain and every ounce of the peace she had finally found. Love was never about what people saw when they looked at me. It was always about what I refused to give up on. And in the quiet warmth of that Lagos evening, a story that began with a little girl shivering outside a locked gate finally ended the way it always deserved to. With a family, whole, healed, and no longer hidden. She was the cleaner they threw away. He was the boy they called weak. But love does not ask for permission, it only asks for time. And after 7 long years, theirs finally came home.